Hi Dipanshu, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks.
So can you tell me something about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me here. And my name is Dipanshu. I belong to Delhi, and
Mm-hmm.
I have completed my studies and graduation from Delhi only, IP University. And then I got myself into Capgemini. Since 2021, I've been in Capgemini and using my skills as a QA engineer to provide the services to clients, as well as I am holding a 2.5 years of experience as an automation tester, along with my manual testing experience. So I have worked with multiple clients as of now, like VMware, and right now I'm working with ETS.
Mm-hmm.
And I have proven experience in manual testing concept as well as Java with Selenium. So, and all the test management tools like HPLM and Jira, along with some client internal tools that we used to use as per their guidance. And I do have good hands-on on testing methodology, and I am experienced in agile methodology as well, and Scrum we used to follow as of
Mm-hmm.
our current project.
Great, great. Okay. So you have 3 years of experience in software testing, right?
Yeah, right.
So can you give me an example of a scenario where you were facing challenge while doing testing in the previous project or in your current project, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, so like when I was working with VMware, so there was one release, like kind of two integrations team were involved. So we need to do an end-to-end kind of thing, so
Mm-hmm.
that the data from it was based on Salesforce and web testing. So data from Salesforce is going to their system or not, we have
Mm-hmm.
to check. And during the testing, we came across a bug which was earlier missed by the team, but went to the production eventually.
Oh.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was kind of a challenging situation, and then we did what we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So actually we raise it over the Jira and bring the attention of all the product owners, developers, and the integration POCs, and as well as the product manager as well. So we routed it to the defect triage call, and we replicated the scenario. It was a very edge case scenario happening for a specific time, so that we replicated, and the RCA has been found for that defect, and the integration team has provided the fix. After the retesting, we released it all the way into the production, and it was fixed then earlier with the release which we are testing that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. So this was about a bug that got slipped into the production, right?
Yes, yes.
So then the next thing is, how did you find out that the root cause? What root cause did you do?
So root cause, like we executed the specific scenario, and
Mm,
then they have like with the developers we were on working sessions. So there were some bad jobs which were not getting processed properly.
mm,
So that's how like they have concluded to the this thing, like it is occurring due to bad job
mm,
execution. So that how we come up to the RCA.
mm. Okay, okay. So this is a good thing that you have shared. Apart from this, see, one of the example that you can give. So in a web-based application, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Hmm. So in a web-based application, you had to test the checkout process. So in an e-commerce application, what happens is the checkout process would involve the shipping information, the billing information, selecting payment methods. Now,
Yeah.
adding items to the cart and selecting payment method, all those things are something that is fine. You would create the test cases, but how will you handle shipping options? How will you handle various payment
Mm.
gateways, right? Let's say if you are developing an
Yeah.
application across the globe which can be used, right? So there might be multiple payment gateways, right? So how will you handle this challenge? So this itself is a challenge because you don't know the customer would be from which place and which payment option they might use, which shipping option they might use, right? So first of all, you
Yes.
will analyze the situation. So you will create Excel or maybe matrix file, matrix of which are the different permutations and combinations of the possible payment gateways and shipping information from the customer side. Then you will discuss with your
Right.
product managers that which one are to be taken into the consideration and which one are to be ruled out, right? It is not possible to test each and everything, because testing
Yes,
itself,
yes.
the principle says exhaustive testing is impossible, right? So you
Not
will,
possible.
yeah, you will have a word with them, you will collaborate with them, and see why this collaboration is necessary. You have to tell in an interview why are you collaborating, because as a tester, it is not something that you will be doing it alone. It is not possible also. So as a
Yes.
team member, you are progressing, you are heading out in the right direction. So that's why you are involving the team. It's a team effort, right? Then test environment setup you will do. So you will set up the environment. Maybe you might have some production environment from the customer. You will
Yeah.
request them to create a mirror image of the production environment, wherein you can see all those payment gateways and shipping options, and then you will test,
Mm.
so that you are able to simulate the real time testing, right?
Yeah.
Then test case design you will do, and this is test scenario creation for shipping and billing information,
Mm.
handling the edge cases. If automation needs to be done, then you will handle some of the critical cases via Selenium and TestNG, right? Then
Yeah.
exploratory testing you will do, collaboration, communication, and finally the continuous improvement. So you will also highlight this particular point in your retrospective meeting, just to ensure such kind of challenge does not comes up again, right? Because this
Yes.
is a major thing, and
Mhm.
why it came out in the surface during the testing phase. It could have come during the requirement itself, right? So such kind of scenarios you have to tell. So this is end to end. What was the challenge? What did you do? What was the action item that you do? And what was the final result? And what is the learning lesson from that? So whenever you get the
Yes.
scenario based questions, always remember star based framework, right? So let me tell you about
Mhm.
star also, right? So star is about situation. Then T stands for task, right? A stands for action, and R stands for your result. What was the outcome? What was the result of the action that you took? So whenever you get this behavioral or scenario type questions, you know that you can expect in the managerial rounds, then you have to
Yes.
explain in this particular pattern.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's
So,
move to the next question. Okay. What are the different metrics that you are using to measure the effectiveness of your testing efforts?
effectiveness. So, requirement traceability matrix we used to do, and we
Hmm.
used to cover each and every acceptance criteria which is mentioned in the user story. We
Hmm.
will make sure like each and every points of the acceptance criteria along with the call outs, the assumption is covered, and
Hmm.
whatever the scope of the testing is covered in the our test cases, along with
Hmm.
the valid invalid combination and permutation and combination that we used to cover.
Hmm. 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 Okay. Okay. Now, in order to explain how much your testing is effective, there are multiple metrics that an organization can choose to, or it also depends, it varies from companies to companies, projects to
Mhm.
projects. So if you have to, measure the effectiveness of your testing, how much is your testing effective, then you have to discuss about all these metrics. Now these are 6 to 7 metrics that are available, which are highly used. It is possible your project or your QA manager might tell you to go for 2 to 3 metrics. So first is defect density, right? So number of defects that you have found in your software with respect to the number of lines of code are there. So this is actually tells you the effectiveness of the testing. So let's say if there are 1,000, for example, if it's 1,000 lines of code, or let's say
Mhm.
1,000 is a very less number, let's take 20,000 lines of code you have in that software. With 20,000 lines of code, till now you have found almost 500 defects, right? So they will see with respect to, they'll come up with a ratio of a defect density, right? How many defects that you have found. Accordingly,
Yeah.
they will understand, okay, what is the quality of the code that has been written, how much testers have to put down the efforts, what is their productivity. Now let's say out of 20,000 lines of code, if you are not able to find even 50 defects, then they will come and talk to the QA team, why are we not able to find the defects. Next comes the test coverage. So test coverage means how much requirements you have covered. So how much code you have covered, right? So when I say test coverage means you might be having a requirement traceability matrix that you put out requirement, you will be having test case IDs, you will be having. Out of those, you will come to know, okay, this particular requirements are covered. Now here we are going with one more level down. With those requirements, how much lines of code are being written? And are we covering all the test cases for all the code that has been written? Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can go for testing techniques like statement coverage, branch coverage, path coverage,
Yes.
right? Then defect detection rate, right? So how many defects that are being found, those are being identified, at what rate it has been found, right, during the testing. So are you getting, for example, 10 defects every day, or are you getting one defect every day, right? So defect detection rate will also give you an idea. Then test effectiveness ratio, right? So it is again the percentage of defects found by testing relative to the total defects that are found, right? And then you have these two things: mean time to detect defect and mean time to resolve. So whenever you put the defect, how quickly you get the resolution, how quickly you get the code fix or bugs fix from the development team, right? So what is the response of the development team, how much response time they are taking, right? So that is mean time to resolve. Mean time to detect is nothing but how much time does it take to detect the defects. For example, it should not happen that you received the build on Monday and you found the defect after 15 days, which was already there since the first deployment happened, right? So
Yeah.
these all things will help you to assess the efficiency of the testing process. How much effective is your testing process? How much good your testing process is, right? So that's how you have to explain.
Got it. Yeah, it was
Okay.
something new for me as well.
Yeah, yeah. No worries, no worries. Okay, great. So now let's move to the next question. Okay. How do you communicate or how do you collaborate with the stakeholders?
You mean the end customers or like clients
Hmm.
and our product management team,
Okay,
development team?
okay.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's a service-based company, then the
Mm.
client. And if it's a product-based company you are referring to, then it's the stakeholders, the CEOs or the business analyst who are giving the user
Yeah.
requirement to your product managers, those
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
high-level management team, how do you collaborate or how do you connect with them?
So, as we are following the Agile and Scrum process, so we do have our daily stand-up calls with our team, in which like POs, business analyst, and product manager, along with devs and QA involved. So, whatever the impediments and the blocker defects, if we are having, so and foreseeing any risk to complete the testing before the deadline, so we can communicate over there. And we do have like for urgency purpose, like we do initiate some email chains along with that. And if it comes to the SDLC, so like our business analyst or product owner used to have a review call, like in which the requirement are specified, and basically a model is prepared, like how the system will be happening. And walkthroughs used to be there, like whenever the code is ready, and then they used to provide the walkthrough to the product owner if they should deploy it, and if there is anything needs to be added as per the acceptance criteria. Along with that, we used to provide our test cases review as well to our product owner or business analyst, so that we have covered each and everything as per their suggestions. And we can implement their feedback as well in our test cases if we have missed out anything. uh, Apart from that, yeah, that is how the communication process used to happen.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So here you can also add that you are sometimes giving the demos for the user stories that has been tested by you or the team members with the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And so generally what happens in the agile, so you are very right, you will be involving them in the walkthroughs and all those things. And generally after the sprint completion, so generally
Mm.
a sprint duration is of 2 weeks or 4 weeks. After 2 weeks get completed, the last Friday of the sprint,
Sprint demo.
on that day, the demos are conducted. During the demos, you have some conference room wherein they would be connected with you via Teams call, online calls, and you will have your QA leads, managers, the dev leads, the Scrum masters, product owners in an offshore team with you, and you would connect with them. So 15 minutes of demo with respect to various projects that you would be working on. So 15 minutes of demos you would be giving. In that 15 minutes, you have to explain, okay, so these were the test cases that we have written. This is the test result document. This is
Yeah,
how the testing we have done. These many defects we have found, and those are being fixed, and those are being retested as well. This is the test coverage. This is, if you have already automated it, this is the automated test coverage. So
yeah,
likewise, you can showcase all these things in the demo. So demo is actually the call wherein you are collaborating with the stakeholders. It's an opportunity. Generally, they won't connect with each and everyone in the team, right? They don't
mm,
have time, and neither uh, we are at that level, right? In a QA team. So during the demos, you might connect with them, and you might get some open-ended feedback from them. What
yeah,
their expectations, right?
yes.
So those kind of things, that's how you connect, you collaborate with them. One more instance when you have to collaborate with them is maybe during release testing, if
Production.
the code freeze is already done,
Mm,
and during the release testing you find that there is a regression issue that needs to get fixed. So then you will have to connect with them, you will have to get their approval. So over there again, the next question will come, why this defect was not found earlier? Then you will have to give all those kind of detailed analysis, why it was found today, why not earlier, what will you do to get it fixed, and what will you do to ensure it has not been found again, right? So those kind of
yeah.
things. So during release testing also you can connect with them, right? So that's how you can tell this answer.
Can I
Okay.
include the like that I used to provide the walkthrough to UAT as well, the person who would be using this. So that point can
Yeah,
I?
yeah. So if he's a client or a stakeholder, or if he's someone who is outside from the team, but he's from a top management, so
Mm-hmm.
you can showcase, yeah, I was contributing to that as well, right?
Yes.
So that's how you can tell. Okay. Okay. How do you generate the test data for testing?
So yeah, test data like it's depends on the user story. So if it is a huge test data ask, we used to leverage our automation because that is there for like reduce the manual effort, and then that effort we can put over to our test coverage. So if it is account creation, like if that story belongs to some process related to accounts and all, we used to leverage automation.
Hmm.
Along with that, we somehow like sometimes manually create, because if the flow that some preconditions are there for the flow, so if it is not covered in the script, so then we have to manually create that. And that usually happens whenever the development is happening, and side by side we used to write our test cases and our test data preparation we used to do.
Hmm.
So that, but majorly like if it is a big functionality, so automation leverage should be there.
Hmm. 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 Correct. Correct. Okay. So, tell me something about the situation when you had to reduce the testing cycle time, or you had to reduce your testing time to ensure you are able to release in the given time period. So what did you do?
Okay, so
Hmm.
these type like whenever there was a release, so we had to complete the automation. We have committed for the automation for that release. It
Hmm.
was kind of Excel size of project and having 300 plus test cases. So we have covered that 300 plus test cases into 7 end-to-end test cases, which were having the high priority test cases, and the flow is pretty much covering in those 7 test cases. So when the release was gonna happen, so we triggered our automation suite, and we got some defects. So we have extended our communication to the product owner and all the stakeholders, like the release is kind of near, and the defect is there in the build. So then like the defect triage happened and the defect got fixed, and then we have to retest the defect. So uh, the release was kind of near, and we do have to extend our working hours to again trigger and validate our test automation results. Along
Mhm.
with we perform some kind of manual test as well, because it is good to verify manually as well, because you like it is all related to quality, like how many times you can provide the surety. So two
Mhm.
times you can provide manually and automation as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
like completing a task during the deadline can be achieved via effective team work, and extending some hours from your work. So
Mhm. Okay, okay, fine. So here you can also add these particular points. See, let me share my screen. Hmm. So you were telling about automation. So if some things have been already automated, you can go for parallel testing. So what
yeah.
happens is parallel testing will help you to execute the test cases in multiple browsers concurrently. You can distribute your test
Mhm.
cycles. The next thing is prioritization of the test cases. You can prioritize test cases based on their risk, the criticality and impact of business. Now, let's say today is Saturday, 23rd of March. You have a release on let's say Tuesday itself, 26th of March. You don't have time because Monday is actually a holiday due to Holi, right? 25th is an holiday. So you have only today's time. So what you will do is you'll first focus on the higher priority test cases. You'll you'll identify which were the critical defects that were fixed early. You will get them retested rather than testing each and everything, because nothing can be achieved in a single day, right? So that's how you will reduce the test cycle time. Now these two things are something when you get the deadline, when you have already started the project. Now what if
Mhm.
the project is still in the analysis or in the requirement stage, and you see that the time that you are getting is not sufficient, then you will can go for shift left testing. What is shift left testing? Are you aware about shift left testing?
No.
Okay, okay, no worries. So in shift left testing, what happens is you involve the testers directly during the coding phase, right? So as soon as the developers will be writing unit testing, you would be and they'll be getting their code reviews done. You will be directly starting, I mean, you will be creating, designing your test cases, and you would be starting the testing during that particular process itself, rather than waiting for the build or the code to come end to end user story to get delivered, right? So that is shift
Mhm.
left testing. Okay. So
Okay.
there are two ways. So you can also ask the interviewer. So you want us to reduce the testing cycle time when we have already got the tickets in testing, or when you come to know that the project is still in the requirement stage and you come to know you have to deliver it in 3 months, provided the scope of the project is telling that it can be completed in 5 or 5.5 months, right? So those kind of questions you can ask in an interview. It will be good if you um, seek some clarification during the interviews, if you communicate with them rather than just having Q&A kind of a questions.
Yeah, like kind of discussion I should be
Kind of discussion,
focusing
right?
on.
So the
Yeah.
more you will discuss, the more you will be able to read their thought process, and then
Mm.
you can align your answers accordingly. Then what would happen
Yeah.
slowly and gradually, you and the interviewer, maybe one person, two-person, or three-person, you would start coming on the same page, and that's where they will come to know that you are a perfect person to get hired for this job position, right? So
Okay.
that's how you have to take the interview in your direction. You have to ask some clarification, you have to communicate with them. There is no problem with that.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, how do you handle testing challenges related to agile or DevOps environment?
Uh, Testing challenges.
Hmm.
Those are related to like deadlines or like
So yeah, so deadlines, it's not related to deadlines, but it is more about uh, the delays. So sometimes if you see the DevOps environments are there, they might take some time to deploy the user story which you have to test,
Mhm.
right? So for example, if you have 5 days, were supposed to get the user story on Tuesday
Yeah.
and you are getting it by Wednesday, so you cannot complete it by Friday, the commitment that you are given based on Tuesday, right? So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so how will you handle these kind of challenges related to the agile or DevOps environments?
So yeah, for that we can come up with a plan. So whatever user story has been deployed, we can start on that, and then we can convey the message like for these user story we are right now blocked, and we can't proceed until and unless you can expedite the deployment process.
Hmm.
So that status we can update over to Jira, and we can bring it upon in our Scrum call. Like QA team cannot proceed without the deployment in the QA environment, and like the testing can be resumed for the available user story, but it would be a risk to release. So yeah, and there would be gradually defects coming up, like even if they deploy to Tuesday or Thursday. So like that defect retesting phase and execution for those user story might take time. So we have to call out that risk itself in to the high people.
Correct, correct. So let's say you are already following agile methodology. So in
Hmm.
the daily stand-up call, when you will go in the morning, it's a 15 minutes of call and you have to tell what will you do it today and what did you do yesterday? Do you have any impediments? So you can raise that. This is a challenge. I was supposed to get this story today in the morning by now time, but still it has not come. Maybe due to the deployment issue, due to the DevOps team is not able to still do the deployment. Maybe they
Yeah.
have got some environment issues. So you can highlight such things there. The
Yes.
next thing is, so currently you don't have work for the user story which was supposed to come deployed, right? So what
Yeah.
you will do is you can also tell in an interview. So in order to save my time, I started writing test case for the upcoming stories, or I
Hmm.
started doing regression testing for some features. So that's how I made sure that I am productive enough, even though there are these kind of
Test data
challenges.
preparation parallelly we can do.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful thing. Test data preparation takes so long time. Sometimes you have
Yes.
to generate test data in terms of thousands,
Yeah.
right? So that's how you have to speak up. So you have to make them ensure that you are a team member, and despite there are cross team challenges, so DevOps is again a cross team, right?
Yeah.
So this cross team challenges also does not stops you from being productive enough.
Yeah.
Those kind of things you have to tell in an interview. Okay. Did you implement shift right testing in your project?
Shift right. It is like opposite to the shift left, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. Opposite to the shift left. You can
Okay.
go for a guess. Yeah.
So yeah, like pretty much every project after the build is deployed, like the unit testing has been done by the developer and it is ready for test. So like most of the project are based on shift right testing only. So that like we used to cover the our test cases and our execution after the deployment to the QA environment only. And yeah, that I would say.
Mm. Okay. So see, shift right testing is actually the monitoring of the feature once they are deployed in production, right? You are able to
Mhm.
see my screen, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So generally what happens is you will have various environments. You will have
Mhm.
um, development environment, you will have QA, you will have staging, you might have a user acceptance testing environment, you might have the pre-production environment, you might have production environment. Now, despite testing in all these environments, if you are not getting that defect, so so you'll so first of all is, in order to ensure the testing is done properly, you'll go for shift left testing. But shift right
Yeah.
testing is focusing on the features once they are deployed in production. So let's say you already did the production release, right? Then you will gather some feedback from the users. So how you will gather that feedback? So let's consider a scenario where you are using Jira. So in Jira, you might be seeing support kind of tickets might be raised from your client or from your customers who are using those features only, which you have tested. So you will come to know, okay, real time scenarios or use cases that are being used by the customer. So you'll go for various testing techniques such as A by B testing, canary releases, right? You will see the feature is working as expected in the production. If it not, then gather those support tickets, convert them into the test cases, and see, do
Hmm.
some root cause analysis why before production in various environments, including pre-prod environment, when you do testing, you were not able to figure out those kind of scenarios, right? So that's how you will improve for the future. So that is shift right testing.
Okay. It can happen due to code merge issue, I guess, in the
Yeah,
production
again, yeah,
and
now again there are
environment
two
issues
things.
also.
Again, there are two things now. If it happens during the code merge, so code merge is the issue, then they will ask you in the production environment, you would have done smoke testing when the release was there.
Hmm.
Then why
Hmm.
that issue was not found? Or if
Yeah.
it's not a code merge thing, then maybe the scenarios till now were not identified from the development or the QA team, and now the customer is using it in the another manner, right?
Yeah. Edge case.
Yeah, absolutely. So those kind of things might happen. Okay, Dipanshu, I am done with the interview. Do you have any
Yeah.
questions for me?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, so